Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Cinema Rogues. I'm your host, Andrew, and with me, as always, is co-host Guy.
Hello.
Hey. If you want to, just a couple things right out of the way, right out of the gate. If you want to listen to more of me, I do have a show called Board Games Barbarians.
We play multiple board games.
I do. And then I'm also on a show called Talking Wizards that is a Patreon exclusive for the show Retro Warriors, which you should always go check out if you like classic video games. And then there's always Saito Studios, and that is Guy's YouTube channel where you can watch him play video games.
Yeah, video games.
Yeah. Knock those.
I feel like my entire contribution so far has just been exclamations of yeah.
Yeah. That's okay. Yeah, I just wanted to kind of knock those out real quick and then kind of get into what we've been doing for the past 2 weeks.
Whole lot of nothing really. I started a new job. This is my second week, so that's taken a lot of my time. But other than that, I've been watching some NCAA basketball. I have been, I guess I will say boycotting college sports because coronavirus and what that does to college athletes' ability to make choices for themselves.
Yeah. Also the fact that we don't pay them, which is really shitty.
Yeah. But my favorite college team is like ranked number 8 in basketball, so now I'm watching them because I'm a sellout like that.
Nice.
Yeah, so I've been watching Razorback basketball, and they start the NCAA tournament as a number 3 seed this year, so I'm pretty stoked about that. Been watching some more Stars hockey. They're getting decent again. They went through a rough patch. And I haven't really watched any movies, amazingly enough, other than today's movie. But I did finish Wanda Vision.
Nice.
Yeah, that was it was a satisfying wrap up, I would say. Nothing too unexpected. I did miss if anybody hasn't watched WandaVision yet and you plan on watching it, the last episode has 2 end credit scenes. There's one mid credit and one very end credit. I missed the last one on that, but
I may have to go back. I think I got them both. I don't remember. It was 2 weeks ago for me.
Yeah, there was the one I forgot what the mid credit one, but the end credit one, the one that I missed was her in the cabin.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so if you saw that, then that's the one I'm talking about.
I did not. So.
Oh well, there you go. You got more WandaVision to see.
I'll have to go back.
Overall, I loved WandaVision. I thought it was a great study in grief. It was a different take on Marvel properties than we've seen so far. It brought a lot to the table, and it makes me wonder how much Falcon and the Winter Soldier, like you want to call him Captain Falcon, but whatever.
Captain Falcon.
I wonder how much that's going to be different, or if it's going to be more Marvel-esque and action-y. But I guess we'll see.
Yeah, I guess I mean, I like for the Marvel shows, at least for the first one, they wanted to keep to the same like quality of the movies. Yeah.
Actually, speaking of that, I know it's not like in the news or whatever, but I had seen that the CW is talking about the DC's productions on the CW are talking about trying to negotiate a higher budget for those CW shows to get them on par with the DC movies CGI. So I think Marvel's approach to movies, and Marvel and Disney in general, because also like The Mandalorian has really high production values, is starting to push even network TV production values up because they are seeing the fan response to it. So that's kind of neat.
I don't know why they wouldn't expect it to make more money or have a better response because of the quality going up. Like, there's nobody that's like, quality went up, but everybody hates it more now.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it may have just been like a budget thing and the advertising they were getting, and now that streaming is opening up, more revenue,
right?
It's giving them more budget to play with.
Yep.
But what have you been up to other than WandaVision that you spelled with an O?
WandaVision. Well, I finished that. I also watched the behind the scenes for it, which was good.
Oh yeah, was there any like cool little nuggets in that?
Kinda. It was really just a lot of them explaining the show, which
Ah,
if you watched the
okay.
show, you didn't really need to explain it, and them just going like, "Well, it's cool to like be this, or it was cool to play this character, or it was cool to do that," but there wasn't really a whole lot of like new information.
Mm.
So
See,
take that how you will.
yeah, I would say that or I would have hoped that it would have some sort of like extra background or something like that, right? But if
Yeah,
not, okay.
I mean, they kind of talk about really just building the sets and how they like how the sets are built, how they filmed it, that kind of stuff. So more behind the scenes things than anything story related or character related.
That's still cool. I'll probably check that out.
Yeah. I also watched Pick a Destiny. It's the first time I've ever seen it all the way through in one sitting.
Really?
Yeah, I've seen bits and pieces of it, and I've watched like the first half of it before, and then I've watched like part of the latter half, but
Mm-hmm.
I've never actually just sat down and watched it in one sitting.
What'd you think of it as a whole thing?
I mean, I like it. It's a good movie. Fun, Tenacious D movie.
Yeah, it's on my watch at least once a year list. Like if I just want to like veg out and watch something dumb and funny, it's a known quantity.
I didn't realize how short it was. It's a pretty
Oh
short
yeah,
movie. It's like an hour and a half at that.
yeah. I always listen to the album and then get surprised by how short the album is, and I know the movie's not a whole lot longer than the album.
Yeah. Other than that, watched the new Tom and Jerry movie on the HBO Max just because my wife and I couldn't decide what to watch. So I was like, okay, we're just gonna watch this because I'm
Is it any
slightly
good?
interested. Not really. It's not a great movie.
Oh, okay.
I think I laughed out loud like twice, which is more than I think it deserved. And I think it was for a dumb part, but it really like I don't have kids, so maybe kids would like it, but a lot of it didn't really make sense, and the whole story revolved around rich people's wedding going smoothly, which I feel like is a bad read on how like society views rich people right now.
Yeah.
Like if you want us to care about characters, granted they're not the main characters, but maybe don't make your story about making sure someone's wedding goes smoothly.
What's her face from Kick-Ass is in that, right? Chloe Grace Moretz.
Yep. Yeah, she's the main character besides Tom and Jerry. Yeah, it was a fine movie. I don't know. I guess if your choices are watching it now, or I'm sure it'll come back to HBO Max in like 2 months or something like that. But if you have kids, then maybe your kids will like it, and it's not like the worst thing to watch. I'll say this: I didn't hate it.
I mean, that's fair.
But I didn't think it was great.
I mean, I think that falls in line with most kid movie fare these days. You know.
Yep. Well, cool. We'll go ahead and get into some news. Do you want to take us away and start the news off with the
sure
in there?
Alamo Drafthouse has filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy. This really seems to be a more of a restructuring and financial thing than an actual, we're broke and can't afford to live type situation.
They basically, from what I read, they just sold the majority or the rest of the company to its already half owner company, basically.
Yeah. And I guess they're going to proceed and operate, as normal, while they're going through it. And then, they'll come out the other side. I'm sure they'll have some sort of debt restructuring plan, and, that'll be that. Hopefully it frees them up to be able to continue to provide what has become, high quality service. I say has become, it's always been.
Yeah.
But Alamo Drafthouse has become my preferred place to go see a movie.
It's where I go as well.
Yeah. So when I go back to see a movie, I mean, that's where I'm going first if I can.
Yep. Yeah. Once things go back to semi-normal, at least, that's where I'll be going. As long as they start up their monthly service again.
Yep.
I did see. So there are some. They said they were going to close some underperforming stores.
Mm-hmm.
And the only one that I've heard of so far is the Ritz in downtown Austin is closing, which was their like spiritual successor to their original store that's doesn't exist anymore.
Oh, well, that's kind of sad.
I guess so. I've been to the Ritz a couple times, and I hate going downtown, and there's no parking, and it's just not a great experience getting there. Like the theater is fine and fun, but I think I just had a problem with like having to go there.
Nice.
And there's way better Alamo Drafthouses around me than that location.
Yeah, the closest one to me is probably about a 30-minute drive at this point, but whatever. It's worth it to me.
Yeah. I guess we'll get on the next. The Snyder Cut is for Justice League is 4 hours long and releases March 18th.
Yeah, that makes it make a whole lot more sense of why they were gonna. Originally, their plan was to make like a 4-part mini series or whatever out of it.
Yep, that makes way more sense because I don't know if I'm gonna sit through a 4-hour long movie. I can barely sit through like the Lord of the Rings extended cuts. Those are
3.5 hours. You only got like another 20-30 minutes. It's fine.
but that's like a great movie versus a movie that wasn't really great when it originally came out. So there's mixed reviews. I read like one was like a 4 out of 10. I think that was from like GameSpot, and then IGN really liked it, and I think another publication really liked it as well. So it's like kind of a mixed bag. But I mean, I'm still gonna watch it. I just don't know if it'll all be in one sitting.
Right. Yeah. I'm definitely gonna check it out. I don't know. I'll try and power through it, but also I'm watching it with another person, so I don't have complete say in how that's gonna go either.
Yeah, I mean, I'll probably watch it with my wife if she's got time, and I think she's pretty flexible. So if I'm like I'm done right now, I'm pretty sure she'd be like, I am also done. Well, we'll get into Oscar nominations. We're just gonna I just wanted to do Best Picture because obviously there's way too many Oscar nominations for us to do it just in a news segment. But I thought we'd go through the Best Picture nominations. And first off is The Father.
Next is Judas and the Black Messiah.
Then you got Mank, which we reviewed.
Yeah, go listen to that one. The Minari.
Then you got Nomadland.
And then Promising Young Woman.
I still want to see that. Sound of Metal.
And The Trial of the Chicago 7. And I really want to see that movie. Which, that's an Aaron Sorkin movie, right?
Yeah, and that's on Netflix. So I'm probably going to watch that maybe this weekend, unless my wife, because she's going to be busy this whole weekend, but unless she really wants to see it too. Otherwise, it'll just be me.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess next up, Batman finally wrapped up production work, so we are very much closer to another Batman movie.
I'm excited. I don't know anything about this movie other than Robert Pattinson's in it, and I'm at this point I'm sold on Robert Pattinson as an actor.
Yeah, I am too, and I think it's one of those things where whenever they announced it, like, whereas every other Batman I've been like, well, I don't know, like I was like, okay, I just accepted it immediately. Avatar reclaims the title of the highest-grossing film after being released in China. So
that's cheating.
Took it back, Avatar. Disney, you won again.
Yeah, eat it, Disney. Oh.
Oh, no. Yeah, someone in the Discord made that joke. Taika Waititi won a Grammy for the Jojo Rabbit score, so good on him, and he's on his way to an EGOT.
Is he just missing the Tony?
I think so. I think he's won an Oscar and an Emmy already.
Okay. I'll take your word for it.
I don't know, so don't take my word for it.
Well, fine.
Well, we're gonna go and get it. This episode we were talking about Tenet.
It's pronounced Tenet.
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 Ooh, Tenet. I like that one.
Yeah, Tenet. So This is going to be a little bit of a this is the synopsis I wrote, so we'll see how well that goes over. CIA agent named Protagonist learns that you can reverse entropy in order to make people and things reverse time. He is then tasked with stopping the world from collapsing in on itself as an arms dealer holds the button for doomsday. That's about right.
That's a good summary. There's so much to unpack in this movie.
It's hard to throw it in like a sentence or two.
Right. Yeah. And again, it's one of those things going into the movie. I had no idea what it was about. You know, I knew that it was a Christopher Nolan movie. I didn't even know that Kenneth Branagh was in it, and he's like a huge part of it.
Yep. Did you watch the trailer after the fact?
I did. I watched all three. I didn't watch the teaser, but I watched the first official, the second one, and the final trailer.
What'd you think after watching the movie? Do you think it would have like spoiled anything for you?
No. I think it would have gotten me hyped. I think had I watched the trailer going into it, I would have felt more grounded to the material, I guess, because I would have been expecting the sort of time travel-y aspect of it, or not time travel, but time manipulation aspect of it.
Yeah.
And, I think Christopher Nolan seems to have a lot of control over his trailers, if not complete control.
He probably demands it, I would assume.
Right. So I think, he does a good job of not, giving away the ending. And I do, and thinking about it, I have a problem when people are like, oh man, they showed like the final scene in the trailer. Like, well, yeah, but you don't know that in the context of the trailer, right? That's not a spoiler. A spoiler would be like, I don't know, a trailer for Endgame that shows like, what's her face? Scarlett Johansson's character, Black Widow, like dead at the bottom of the fucking thing, right?
Yeah.
That's a spoiler. I don't know.
Spoilers.
Oh, yeah. Spoilers.
Yeah, this movie was definitely one that kind of like grew on me after watching it. Like when I was done watching it, I was kind of disappointed, and the longer I sat on it, the more I thought about it and enjoyed it, even though it's not really scientifically sound.
Yeah. It's not super scientifically sound. You know what? It's which is kind of weird from a Christopher Nolan perspective, because a lot of his stuff seems to be super science, based, and
he tries to ground it in reality as much as possible.
Right. Especially Interstellar. There were heaps of scientific, or of consultations with scientists, and then you had like Neil deGrasse Tyson coming out and saying, yeah, that's pretty good.
Well, there was enough ambiguity with us not really knowing what happens when you're near a black hole that you could basically do anything you wanted.
Yeah, that's true too.
Well, this movie released in the UK on August 23rd in 2020, and in the US September 3rd of 2020. For some development, just a little bit of info that I pulled out for it was writing started in 2014, with pre-production starting in 2018. And apparently this was an idea with any time I read like when this started, or when the movie idea started, it's like, well, it started 15 years ago when I had this idea. And that's how Christopher Nolan explains all of his when it started stories.
Yeah.
It's always like 15 years ago when I had this idea is when it started. And I'm like, well, when did you start actually writing? Filming began in May of 2019. It was filmed in 70 millimeter film and with IMAX cameras. I was actually kind of surprised that they got IMAX cameras again, just because when they were on the set of Dunkirk, they dropped one in the ocean. And
I'm sure the IMAX folks were like, okay, Chris, you got to bring this one back though.
Yeah. Well, they recovered it and it still worked, but still dropping a, how millions of dollars camera into the ocean is probably because they don't own them.
They just gave it to his director of photography and said, look, you're in charge of this.
He's the one that dropped it.
Oh, well, shit.
Well, because he has it, actually on his shoulder in most of the shots, has this, I don't know, like 100-pound camera or something like that on his shoulder with a dude behind it, like holding it up, also like walking around. Yeah, his director of photography is a beast, man.
Now, I'm sorry, real quick. Director of photography and cinematographer are two different things, right?
Yes, I believe so.
Okay.
I don't know off the top of my head. I believe they are different.
You're supposed to know these things. Okay.
I know.
Anyway, go ahead.
I'll take another class someday on it. Ludwig Göransson did the score of the film. I probably butchered his last name. And apparently created melodies that were the same forward as they were backward to keep with the palindrome theme of Tenet.
Nice.
And according to IndieWire.com and Entertainment Weekly, Washington and Pattinson and DeBecke were only allowed to read the script at first in a locked room. That way, secrets couldn't get out.
I mean, that's one way to do it. So I just Googled Christopher Nolan cinematographer and then Christopher Nolan director of photography, and they both say Wally Pfister.
Well, there you go. Maybe his are the same, and they're usually not. I don't know.
Anywho, so where were we?
So we'll get into, as we've kind of mentioned multiple times, director, story by, written by is all Christopher Nolan. The leads are John David Washington as protagonist, Robert Pattinson as Neil, as Elizabeth Debicki as Kate, or Kat, and then Kenneth Branagh as Sater. I didn't really have any supporting. There was a lot of supporting cast, and I didn't really put any in there, just because.
And there's the obligatory Michael Caine.
Yeah, Michael Caine was in there. That he was really the only usual Christopher Nolan suspect that's in.
Yeah,
I guess wasn't Kenneth Branagh in Dunkirk?
Was he?
I thought he was one of the dude on the dock, like the general or whatever.
Oh, he may have been. That would make sense.
I
don't remember off the top of my head if he was or not.
I think he was.
Yeah, there were a couple of people in the movie. I was like, oh, hey, it's that person. Like there was the guy that the first guy he saw after the opening scene. I don't want to give away spoilers here.
Yeah. But
who kind of gave him the original rundown on Tenet or whatnot. Mm-hmm. That guy was in Weeds.
Okay. And I was right. Kenneth Branagh was in Dunkirk as Commander Bolton. So nice. I guess that is a returning actor. It has won the Critics' Choice Movie Award for Best Visual Effects of 2021 and the Satellite Award for Best Visual Effects, which is weird because their visual effects are more practical than they are. I guess it's still visual effects, practical effects.
Oh, it was also nominated for Most Pretentious Director.
Was it? Oh yeah. Oh, that's a guy original award. You should mail it to him.
I'm disappointed, man. I don't know. I have so much respect for Christopher Nolan's movies that it just really bothers me that he's so adamant about having to watch it in the theater. Like even the trailer, I think it was the first trailer. At the end of it, it says, "Watch this trailer in the theater for maximum effect."
I don't know. We've had this discussion multiple times. I understand where he's coming from. I mean, being so assertive about it maybe is a little bit much, but like the person that creates the art has a medium that they prefer that you watch it on or that you view it on. But that doesn't necessarily mean that's where it's going to happen.
Did you see that guy that stuck it on like a GBA cartridge or something?
I did not. Just to like piss him off or
I
try to?
Yeah, I don't know. He, I guess this dude just puts various movies on GBA carts, and so there's just a screenshot of it running on a GBA.
Wow. All right. And does it run with any sort of resolution, or is it like?
I mean, I would assume it runs in okay resolution.
Well, I mean, like, is it like Game Boy graphics or somehow?
No, I mean, it's got to have like the full color palette.
He reprograms it to be like a Game Boy game.
Yeah. It's pixelated and it's only got like 8 colors.
Well, critical response, you've got Rotten Tomatoes. The critic score is 70% at the time of this recording. and audience score is 76%. And then Metacritic is Metascore 69 with user score of 72. So roughly about the same. What did you spoiler-free review?
It was great. I loved the movie. Watching it the first time, it was definitely going through it with in my head going, what the fuck is going on here? And like trying to figure out and trying to play a guessing game of where it's gonna go. But I like I said, Christopher Nolan makes great movies, and as much as I don't like him on a sort of personality level,
yeah,
I'm not going to say on a personal level because I don't know him on a personal level, but on a personality level, he's a great director, has some brilliant story ideas, and knows how to execute them really well. The cinematography is great as always. The score was amazing. The pacing was great. There weren't like huge lulls. There were some exposition, but it didn't feel like the exposition really bogged it down in the same way that what's the movie with the dreams? Christopher Nolan movie
with dreams?
Yeah, where they go in their dreams and it slows down.
Inception.
Yeah, Inception. Thank you. Some of the exposition in Inception really, bogs the movie down, especially when they're like trying to set up and get, Elliot Page and Leonardo DiCaprio having their conversations about what's going on.
Yeah,
and that didn't really seem to happen that much. There was a lot of tension in all of the scenes with dialogue. Especially like because you had scenes where he's having these discussions with characters, and then all of a sudden, either all of a sudden like some goons show up and start messing with him in an ominous way, or he's just in a tense situation and having these discussions. So I like the way it was crafted and acted and directed.
Yeah, I think the first time because I viewed it, like I watched about like a quarter of it today just to kind of like go through a little bit of stuff. But the first time I viewed it, it felt very like the lines were very punchy. Like someone would say a line, someone would say a line, someone would say a line. Like it was just very bam, 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 very quick paced. Mm-hmm. And that bothered me at first because it felt unnatural. Everybody responding so quickly without any time to think about anything that's being said. But then the second time I didn't have that same effect, so I don't really know what was going on the first time. Maybe that's how it was, and watching it a second time I'm already used to it, so it doesn't matter. Who knows? My review was Tenet is a complicated, convoluted, and sometimes plot hole-ridden film. This doesn't stop it from being an interesting, wonderfully attractive, and downright enjoyable movie. The moments before the end where I'm scratching my head, wondering what's happening, isn't met with frustration, but more of a feeling of wanting more and wondering what's going to happen next. As the movie says, you have to start looking at the world in a new way. I believe the same can be said about this film. Even with its flaws, it's still a delightful time, and it's worth the moment spent watching it.
I would agree with all that. I think even at the end of the movie, well, except for the epilogue, like when the action wraps up and your main characters are having their sort of post-action discussion, there's a sort of a hint or promise of more or a larger world and a larger story. And that left me, wanting more. I want a sequel to Tenet, even though, I think I'll get into later why I don't think that's going to happen.
Right.
If for no other reason than it's a Christopher Nolan movie.
Hey man, he's made sequels before to Batman.
Only Batman's.
We'll get into it in the spoiler review section, but what is your would you suggest people watch it?
Yeah, absolutely. I would pay to rent it, honestly. If I was, wanting to watch it today. I think it's well worth a rent. I don't know that I'd pull a trigger on a buy unless it's on sale, or waiting for it to come on some sort of paid streaming service. I think since it is a WB movie, it's most likely an HBO Max movie.
Right.
So, if you've got HBO Max and don't mind waiting, yeah, I think that's a perfectly valid way to do it too.
It'll eventually come there once they can convince Christopher Nolan to stop being so crazy about it.
That's true. I know. I know that he has said that he's done with Warner and HBO Max as a distribution platform because of their stance on releasing movies simultaneous with theaters. But we'll see.
I mean, we'll see what happens whenever everything kind of, I don't know. We'll see how it all plays out. I think it's been going. I've enjoyed the movies being released on HBO Max. And especially since they're only there for a month and then they still have more time to be in theaters before they're back on the streaming service, I think works out. But I don't know what he's expecting right now anyway, with people not really being able to go into movies.
Right.
But
yeah. Well, now we're starting to get vaccinated, so hopefully soonish.
hopefully, I think Fauci said July he expects things to start going back to normal if we can get more than like 50% vaccinated.
Right.
But yeah. I believe it's worth a watch. If it's, I'm not a huge movie renter because I generally buy movies at like $10 when I can find them. So if you can find this movie for $10, I think it's worth that versus paying $4 to $5 to rent. Or the occasional on iTunes that I find where it's $4 to rent and $5 to buy, and I don't understand how that works out.
Oh, I guess I will amend mine to say that I would be happy to buy the physical release.
Yeah, I'd like that. I mean, I got the iTunes version, and that came with an hour and a half of behind the scenes stuff, which I did watch like a crazy person.
Nice.
So I did get to see some behind the scenes stuff, which was nice. And I'll probably talk about that some in the spoilers section. But yeah, if you can find it for on sale for $10 like I did, or you want to rent it, or you want to wait for it, whichever one you feel comfortable doing. But I would say it's definitely at least worth $10. I'm not sure if I'd pay $20 for it. I'm not sure I'd pay full price for it.
Wise man say, forgiveness is divine, but never pay full price for late movie.
There you go.
Somebody's going to get that Ninja Turtles reference, damn it.
Yep. Well, we're going to go into spoiler review section.
Yeah.
Spoiler zone.
Spoiler zone.
Why don't you take it away?
All right, I'm just going to rip this Band-Aid off, but there's a fan theory out there that Max, the son, what's her face? Kat's son, Max, is actually Neil.
But how did he get to the past?
Well, when he starts to grow up or becomes a teenager or whatever, he's still in contact with what's his face, right? Because like at the end of the movie, he kills the Indian lady. I forgot her name. Priya, I think.
Priya. Yep.
He kills her, and then what's he gonna do next? He has the potential to go, at this point, go meet up with Kat and start up a friendship or a relationship or whatever, and be in their lives. And so at some point in the future, after he comes up with the idea of, or really starts establishing, the Tenet, then what he can do is he can just stick, Max/Neil into one of the reversey machines, and he just kind of, hauls it back 20 years or whatever.
Do you age?
Yeah, I mean, you were going normally through time. So, if he went when he was 17, that would be probably about 10 years or so. He'd have to go backwards in time, something like that.
Do you age forwards while you're going backwards, or do you age backwards while you're going backwards?
I would think you age forwards because your relative to the world around you, you're still going your own normalcy. Like you're not speaking backwards to yourself, for example.
I guess so. And whenever she was, so there's the scene where she gets shot and then they put her through the machine. And so she's healing forwards or healing backwards. I don't know if they actually ever explain it, did they?
I don't know that they explained her healing super well. I know that the radiation from the thing going through her is what was destroying her and whatnot. And when they started her going forward again, that went away.
Yeah. My biggest problem that I had with this movie, and I guess really it was more my wife's biggest problem, so I'm carrying it over here, is why he cared so much about Kat to begin with. Other than
Yeah.
maybe being attracted to her, why a CIA secret agent that is now dead and has murdered people before, supposedly. Well, I guess he murdered people at the beginning of the movie. But why he cares so much about a woman that he's just met.
Well, his original drive was to get that meeting set up, and I would just assume that in the process of getting to know her and getting the things that she needed, he started to care about her, like learning her story or whatnot. That's the only thing that I can really think.
Right, but it's not like there's never a moment where he shows any sort of like relationship interest with her.
I mean, that's true. But like she tells him her story, and at the end of the day, when he goes to like recover the painting and it's not there, and then he lies about it or whatnot, and then she finds out that he lied about it because he's her husband's got the painting.
Yeah,
that it's that maybe he feels some responsibility for setting that right.
I guess so.
But so back to this fan theory about Max as Neil. You've got the fact that Neil knows a lot about, even though they theoretically like just met at the beginning of the movie.
Yeah.
He knows how that he doesn't drink on the job. He knows that he likes, Coke.
Yeah.
And some various other like little tidbits like that. And at the end of it, he says, he hints that there's more of their interaction to come because they're going to set up the whole plot, in the future. Right.
Yeah.
And then just from an actor standpoint, Robert Pattinson dyed his hair to a sort of like dirty blonde like Kat's character has.
Yeah.
And he put on a fake English accent. It's not his real English accent. It is closer to hers.
Okay.
And then there's the fact that he speaks Estonian, which, if he grew up, if he's the kid of these two, of the Estonian, mob guy and the British lady, then that would explain that he grew up in a potentially bilingual household, and that's how he knows those languages.
Right. I mean, that makes sense. It also could not be, but I think it's more fun to think of it that way.
Right.
It could just be that he, was trained and picked by him and got close enough as a friend to do that, but it would make sense also for him to be Max, but who knows?
Who knows? I want follow-up, damn it. I want Tenet 2, even if it's just
but he already
that's what
saved
happened.
the world.
Yeah, it's like a 20-minute movie where it's like, them like palling around while he grows up, and then all of a sudden he's Robert Pattinson. It's like the end. Yay.
So I'll go into one of mine. The biggest kind of plot hole that I saw at the end that they didn't really explain other than a throwaway explanation was Neil being dead at the end of the movie and then not being dead and then picking the lock for them and then running off. And it was, they explained it by him going like, I got more stuff to do. I got to go and make sure I'm there.
Well, I mean, that's where he died, though.
But did he?
Yeah, no, he's dead.
Oh,
he's super dead.
And he has to go do it?
Yeah, he has to go do it, and he knows he's going to go do it, and he's known the entire time that's where he dies, right? Assuming that this was all crafted in the future, then he knows, presumably he knows what the protagonist has told him, how he dies or whatnot. Because go ahead.
I was going to say, part of that is he would have had to have gone through a different controlled turnstile twice return to the field, and this would be like the third instance of himself being there that day, to get back there with that knowledge and not having met any instance of himself previously.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he can meet himself. He just can't touch himself, right?
Right.
Which that sounds.
Oh, hey-oh.
But like there are at least 3 versions of him in that field, because he goes through it forward once where he sees the guy planting the bomb, and then he goes through backwards where he's trying to warn them about the bomb, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then he goes back through it again forward to where he's at the end of the movie. So presumably that then he goes back to that same, revert turnstile or whatever, and goes back to die because he knows he has to. And that's when he goes in, he unlocks the door, and he dies. Like that's his the end of his life, I guess.
Because he's saving protagonist.
Right.
Oh man, what a
it's a dense movie, but it's freaking great. And he's also in the opera house, so clearly he's gone backward. He's
super
in that
backwards.
day. Yeah, in that day he's like at least in that day like 5 times, because the end scene takes place during the opera house thing.
Yeah, it's just trying to think about all this stuff. It's just it's a very, very dense movie, as you put it. What is your? I'm interested in your Seder Square thing that you got in the notes.
Oh yeah, there's a thing called a Seder Square, and I'm spacing on the origin of it, but it's some sort of like old tablet, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's a square like stone tablet that's got 5 words on it, and in order they're Sator, Arepo, Tenet, Opera, and Rotas, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if you write that out, or go look it up if you're listening to this, go look it up, and basically what it is no matter which way you flip the square, no matter if you read it forwards or backwards, it always says those same 5 words in that order, because it's like a palindrome. It's like a palindrome square, basically.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah, no, it's really neat. And if you look at it, Sator is the name of the bad guy, right?
Mm-hmm.
Arepo is the name of the art dealer, the forgeries art dealer.
Oh yeah.
Tenet is the name of the movie.
Yep.
Opera, the opening scenes in the opera house, and Rotas is the name of the security firm in the international terminal.
Ah, okay.
So yeah. So there are a lot of allusions to it. It's clearly where some of the inspiration was drawn from, most notably the name of the movie.
Pretty cool. Another.
I was gonna say, and speaking of palindromes, the entire movie to a certain extent is a palindrome of sorts, and the time going backwards and forwards is very, a time palindrome.
They should have ended the movie in the same opera house that they started the movie in.
Yeah, that would have been great. But at the same time, the end of the movie, or the main, other than the epilogue, does take place at the same time as the opera house. It's just in a different location.
Does it?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that,
because they're going backwards on that boat the entire time or whatever.
Yeah, they're going backwards on the boat at the entire time, and that's also happening simultaneously with him dying on the boat with Kat, right? Which that's happening while the normal version of him, like the original version of him,
mm-hmm.
Has flown off the boat from the helicopter to go to the opera house. Right, that's why he's away from the boat.
Right. One question I have, because the big huge boat is going backwards.
Mm-hmm.
How did they get that through one of the machines to make it go backwards?
They didn't. They got the crate. That they're because he's on the outside of it doing pull-ups at some point.
Yeah, and the boat, like, it shows shots of the water, like, going backwards up on the boat, like it's moving backwards.
That's a good question. I'm not sure how they did that.
Take that, Christopher Nolan.
Somebody did point out in one of these videos that I was watching that in that scene where he's the boat's going backwards and he's on the boat like doing pull-ups or whatnot, that they're passing by that same wind turbine
that he was already in.
Presumably while he was doing pull-ups in that wind turbine.
So he was doing pull-ups at the same time with himself.
Right.
A theory I had for why the movie felt so scripted, I guess is the best way to put it. Like, bam, 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 them talking back and forth, like I said before the spoilers, is that he himself scripted the conversations that he would have with himself and gave those to the people that had conversations with him.
Isn't that a complaint you had about the first Christopher Nolan movie?
Yeah. No, it came back. Was that it just... Well, the first one was it felt like college students... It felt like the same voice talking to each other in too quickly and not enough time for them to really like process information. Like, it was too snappy the way that they responded to each other. And it was not as snappy in this movie, but it still kind of was. It was way worse in watching things. But I guess some fun facts. John David Washington had to learn the vault fight scene 4 different variations, forward and backwards, as present and future self.
That's right. And he also had to, I mean, he had to learn the choreography for the fight with what's his face too, right? I mean, it wasn't really a fight. It was more him running around.
Yeah, he had to learn all of them. Yeah. That's what I'm saying. Like, he had to learn that 4 different times. And they filmed it. They filmed the fight. They were fighting going backwards in some of those scenes.
Crazy.
So they had to... The stunt coordinators had to do the fight scene and then figure out how to do it backwards. And they would film themselves doing it both ways and make sure that they were doing the movements properly.
That's nuts. Like, yeah, the technical details in this movie of like the choreography and stuff is mind blowing.
So anytime they had somebody doing something backwards, like walking backwards, they did all those things where they were actually walking backwards, and they all had to figure out how to do that properly. He was actually talking backwards in the scene when he's got the gun to Kat's head. Sater does, and he had he had like a whiteboard down below that he kept looking at to try to that was just like how to pronounce things backwards properly.
Nice.
And then another interesting fact: the movie has some of the first aerial video shots ever of India.
Oh, really?
Or of Mumbai, because India does not normally allow aerial video or photos of their cities. And they allowed them to do that.
That's pretty neat.
Also, they did both John David Washington and Robert Pattinson both did most of their own stunts.
Cool.
And one of my favorite stories from the video, from like the behind the scenes, is remember when they're in Mumbai and they jump off the building at the end and kind of rappel down or are repelled down. Not the end of the movie, but at the end of that scene.
Yeah.
He's jumping on like this little platform. Like, he's still strapped in so that way if he falls they can catch him, but he's not jumping to fall down whenever you see him jump off of the roof or whatever, or jump off of the balcony. And apparently, like, Christopher Nolan gave him a note before he was supposed to do it, and he just ignored the note and like jumped the way that he had been doing it. And Christopher Nolan came up to him afterwards and was like, "You didn't hear a thing I said because you were scared shitless, weren't you?" And he was like, "Yep." For sure.
Nice. Like I said, Christopher Nolan seems like a genuinely nice dude. Yeah.
For the most part,
disappointed.
Yeah.
I did like that they color coordinated a lot of the movie. And again, Christopher Nolan movies, every detail is somewhat important, right? There's barely anything you see on screen that isn't thought out for one reason or another. And so, in the same sense, you had people wearing red, or staged in red light going forward, and people in blue going backwards.
Oh yeah.
So when you had the armbands in the final scene, the ones going forward had red armbands. They also had red watches, or red readouts on their watches. The blue team had blue armbands and blue readouts on their watches.
Yeah.
In that scene where you first see the spinning machine, or not first see it, but where Kenneth Branagh goes through it,
Yeah.
with and they have that dialogue back and forth. In the room where time is flowing forward, it's going red, and where it's going backwards, it's staged in blue. But also, while it's staged in blue, you have Kat going forward, who is wearing a red dress or outfit.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a neat use of color, and the reason that it's the way it is because of the Doppler shift effect, right?
Okay.
Or excuse me, of a Doppler shift. The Doppler effect is the thing where like sound compresses as it gets closer,
right?
Like why trains show. But a Doppler shift is how they measure like the speed of interstellar objects. So if you take a picture of, like, say, I have no idea, something far out, like a sun, a star.
Yeah.
And then you take another picture of that star, the light that you get from the star in the two different times is going to be a different color, depending on if that star is moving closer to you or further away from you, right? Okay. And so if it's moving further away from you, then it's red, and if it's moving back towards you, it's blue.
Okay.
Yeah, I thought that was a neat little tidbit.
I would like to talk for a moment about how painful it would be to have somebody cheese grater your face. Like in the fight scene where he's talking to Kat for the first time in the restaurant, and the goons show up, and then he has to fight him in the kitchen.
Yeah,
and
that was rough.
Whenever he's holding the cheese grater, like the first time my wife and I saw it, we were both like, please don't do that. And he like hits a dude in the face with the cheese grater and then grates his face. And I was like, I'm like thinking about how painful it is when you are like cleaning a cheese grater and you accidentally grate like your finger or something.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man, the worst. I can't imagine.
Just slice off little chunks of your face. Yeah, it sounds awful.
Yep.
In the one problem, well, I want to say the one problem I have with this movie, I'm sure I have other problems with it, but in the opera scene, when the terrorists come in, which I didn't figure this out until like days after watching the movie, that those terrorists in that scene were like Kenneth Branagh's crew trying to get the piece of the thing.
I didn't really think about it, and I guess the two guys that capture him at the end are in the crew too.
Yeah. And so, but they come in and they're like trying to, scare people, intimidate people or whatnot. And they just like crush a bunch of like cellos and stuff, like just like knock them over and then like boot stomp them. Why?
Yeah. My wife was like, why did you have to do you?
Yeah.
Like that's,
that's like a multi-$1,000 instrument, I'm sure.
Well, yeah.
Even if it's a replica, unless it's just a non-working, like shitty stage prop, like holy shit, dude, cellos aren't cheap.
For sure, yeah, that was something that bothered us as well. And I guess for me, the last thing I want to talk about is it's a Christopher Nolan film, so basically everything that you see in this movie is real as far as the effects that they do, including the plane that they crash into a building. They actually found an airport that allowed them to create that portion of that building, and then they purchased I think it was a 747, and literally ran it into a building.
Yeah, I mean, I guess if you're destroying 747s, destroying a cello isn't like a stretch.
Right. But I mean, like you mean like in the movie, the fact that maybe it was a fake cello.
Maybe. No, I was talking about like in a budgetary sense, like
Oh, yeah.
if you're gonna like fucking buy a 747, then what's smashing a cello or two?
Yep.
Was that the movie you were talking about? I know we had a conversation at one point about that they were looking to remodel or destroy that part of the airport anyway.
No, they actually. I didn't see anything in the like special features that said that they were doing that. Like that was a portion of the building that they, I think, made for the movie.
Oh,
That
okay.
they just, because it was basically like a pop-up tent. Like it wasn't even really a structure. Like it had some glass and some tin.
Okay. Yeah, maybe I'm thinking a different movie. Like I mean, I know in like The Dark Knight Returns, like they were looking to demolish that portion of that. Yeah, I think it was a factory on the south side of Chicago or something.
Yeah.
That they dressed up like a hospital.
But yeah, the plane, the car flipping scene, they spent a lot of time on figuring out how to flip the car correctly to get it to, and they could flip it like that multiple times in a row.
Mm-hmm.
All the scenes with the when they're trying to get into that car, or they're trying to get into the armored car, that was all done. Like they closed down a road. I can't remember. Forgot to write down where. But they had to close down a road for like 3 weeks.
Nice.
To do that scene. It was not in America. They closed down a different country.
It's funny when they were oh man, I forget which building they were in. One of the buildings that they were in, and it may have been at the Opera House. It may have been later. It looked like the same building that they used in like Captain America Civil War, where they all got in a fight for a minute. Like not the airport, but like that little like kind of small hallway area.
Yeah. I don't know. Don't know. But yeah, it was a good movie, and it had some weird issues, and then you kind of have time to think about it, and they're not so weird anymore. I think
there's a lot to digest. Like we said, it's a super dense movie. Where's it going with that? I think I haven't watched it a second time, but I know that I'm going to watch it a second time, and I think it will be a better experience for it.
Yeah, I'm interested to watch it again, but it'll probably be like half a year before I watch it again.
Like some of the stuff that I watched that was like all the details you missed in Tenet, like for example, Robert Pattinson's character at the Opera House, like the dude who like saves his life by shooting the reverse bullet. When he walks away, you see like the little red string on his backpack.
Yep. Yeah,
and like that was something I would not have I didn't notice it the first time, but I'm sure I would have seen it the second time through.
Yeah. There's a real quick. This is kind of not related. There's a lot of videos on YouTube that are like the ending explained, and we never really understand those because as long as you're not on your phone the whole time and you're paying attention to most movies, like you don't really need the ending explained.
Yeah, dude.
And all of them are very obvious stuff. Like it's like at the end of Tenet. Well, Tenet would be a more complicated one, maybe, but
even Tenet, like I watched like a 45-minute video that was like Tenet explained all your questions answered or whatever, and it was just 45 minutes of this dude telling the plot of Tenet.
Yep.
Like if you had seen the movie, you know what he said.
You remember? So did you watch the Bly Manor show on Netflix?
Yeah.
There was one we watched on that because we liked watching what was the first show that they did?
The Haunting of Hill House.
Yeah, so we watched the like 43 or whatever things that you missed, mainly for the ghosts because we wanted to see where all the ghosts were because those are, which in Bly Manor they weren't as hidden as they were in Hill House.
Yeah.
But like the ending explained was literally like explaining who were ghosts, which they explained at the end of the movie or at the end of the show. Like they literally sat down and they explained like the end of the show on the last episode. And I'm like, why is this YouTube video here? I guess you're just making content.
I guess. I mean, yeah.
Making content. Well, where can we see this movie right now?
At the moment, it's a digital purchase only. Like I said, we are assuming that it's going to come to HBO Max in the near future. But right now, you can. I guess it's also physical purchase.
Yeah.
But there's no way to stream it on a paid streaming service.
Not yet.
Not yet.
So what's up next time?
Next time, we're going to get into Wanda Vision. It's going to be our first series, and I am super excited about it.
No, it's not.
What?
We've done a series before.
What?
We did Over the Garden Wall.
Oh, yeah, that was a series.
Yep.
I don't know why that didn't feel like a series to me, but yeah.
Because it's only 3 hours long.
Oh, maybe that's it. Yeah. All right, it'll be our second series, our first series of 2021. How about that?
There we go. You did
All
it.
right. I did it. All right. Well, I guess check your feeds for our next episode, and
we'll be
it'll be
back. We'll be back next time with some Wanda Vision.
And remember, we live in a twilight world. There are no friends at dusk.
That's true.